When someone asks me what's the fastest way to learn to speak English fluently and confidently, I always say the same thing. Look at what most people do about their English and do the opposite. Most people can't speak English fluently because of this mindset of looking for the fastest, quickest, easiest way to get there. They're looking for quick fixes, waste their time on apps, social media, they are passively watching movies, looking at rules, memorizing words like back in high school that didn't really help them speak English fluently, but they are unable to use what they've studied, let alone communicate effectively. And this way they are avoiding what's actually fun about the whole process of committing to learning English in the long term. Reading, listening to, or watching interesting things about the world, discovering things you've never heard about, and at the same time learning vocabulary and grammar that you're really interested in, you find useful to use in its real context, and using conversations, interaction, opportunities to communicate with other people to make deeper connections with each other. Most people are playing small when it comes to learning English because they want to look smart in front of other people, as opposed to learning smart, which is what we're going to talk about in today's video. In today's video, you'll be hearing about 4 different ways I reached an advanced level of fluency within less than 3 years of living in my home country, Hungary, and how I could get confident enough in speaking English to make the hardest yet best decision I could ever make about my life, to leave my home country, Hungary, at the age of 22 because I was focusing on learning English the smart way. And if you stay until the end, you're going to be one of the first people who will ever get access to a new free course that I've just created that's going to give you an insight into the way I was learning English, and I teach my students English so they learn to speak English naturally, make faster progress, expanding their vocabulary, learning to speak with better grammar, and understand fast English speakers. And I always talk about how important it is to make a decision between wanting to look smart in other people's eyes or learning English the smart way, because in reality, people aren't scared of making mistakes, struggling, or taking time to construct sentences. They are scared of doing all of this in front of other people. Struggling English students often think that when they make mistakes, take risks, and then say something in the wrong way, or when they hesitate, keep looking for the perfect word to use in a conversation, people think they are stupid. When if you really look at how we get better at any skill, including driving a car, playing football, cooking a meal, or speaking English fluently, making mistakes and learning from them, feeling frustrated, confused, hesitating when you're still looking for words because you haven't automatized the expressions in your memory yet, are just simply signs of learning, growing, and improving that most people choose not to experience. Which means people who choose not to struggle, not to step outside their comfort zone just by 1 centimeter, who choose not to make mistakes, either hide them or not even try, so they could learn how not to repeat and make those mistakes again, are choosing not to learn, grow, and improve. Hello, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Chubby. I'm an English fluency, learning, and language anxiety coach, and this is a channel for serious English learners who want to learn how to make vocabulary more memorable and how to speak English more freely, comfortably, and confidently with the help of improving their speaking and their listening skills. So if these are topics you're into, you haven't subscribed yet, and you'd like to find out more about different ways I was improving my fluency and my confidence as a Hungarian native speaker, make sure you sign up, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can get access to everything I share on this page to help you improve your speaking, listening, confidence, fluency, and communication skills. I'm sure I'm not the only one who was struggling with this, but for years, I felt like a weirdo. And I tell you a longer story about how I embraced being weird in another video, but Hungary being a homogeneous country where almost everybody has the same culture, there's not much diversity, and years of harsh communism kind of made a lot of people extremely judgmental. And talking to most of my students coming from different countries, I'm sure this is no different in other countries either. I felt like an outcast for such a long time just because I was choosing to focus on my studies, preferring to read books instead of playing football with my classmates, being the teacher's pet who always knew the answer to every question the teacher was asking, or just because I had a higher pitched voice than most men are supposed to have who are considered to be manly in Hungary. Little did I know that all I did was just basically doing things not like most people. I only realized later that the only thing I did was basically being okay not doing things like everybody else. And I can confidently say that if you want to improve your fluency, you want to gain confidence in speaking English and live a happy life in general, being different from most people is going to be the best thing you will ever do. The first thing every successful English communicator who I've ever taught, people who have become fluent and confident in speaking English, is a goal. So strong that it will flip you out of feeling shy, nervous, or scared about speaking English and using English in general, and turn you into an action taker because you have a reason to wake up every single day and keep working on your English. I don't like to play this what could have happened if, but I'd probably be sitting back in my room playing video games, or I'd probably be reading classics in English or books on nature, dinosaurs, or history if I hadn't had a dream. A dream to live a better life that I could be living back in Hungary with a low salary that most teachers earn, facing judgment all day, all night, and surrounded by negativity and people who just complain about how miserable their life is, but aren't willing to change anything about it. Be brave enough to have a goal, and if speaking English could improve your life, be brave enough to think that life could get way better. You could welcome way more happiness, freedom, more opportunities in life, as long as you keep working on your English fluency. The bar is so low when it comes to having access to better opportunities because there's so much doubt, negativity, self-pity, victim mindset, overwhelm, perfectionism that most people who keep looking for the best strategies, they are consuming grammar and vocabulary content, will probably never reach a good level of fluency. Which means if you commit to doing the smart work, you'll be easily able to feel way better about yourself when you communicate in English and take all those opportunities that those people who simply don't take courage, responsibility, or don't have the determination to work on their English will miss out on. In our community, in the Proficiency Fortress, we're all dreamers. We have people who want to start a new life in Scotland. They want to feel way more free to talk in any conversation at work. And the students I've held in the last 16 years improve their fluency and walk into any conversation knowing what to say, feeling confident about their English, having a clear pronunciation, are now working at higher positions, having more freedom in their lives, having access to more opportunities in their careers and in their lives, obviously earning a higher salary. They were able to move to an English-speaking country or study at their chosen university in an English-speaking country, or just simply feeling incredibly comfortable when they communicate in English at a meeting at work, when they travel abroad, or when they need to use English in their everyday lives. The second way I was learning English the smart way was that I started to focus more on the progress and not on whether I had any results or not. At the beginning, when I wasn't really seeing any results with my fluency, I was still struggling to construct a sentence, even the most basic sentences, I was complaining all the time. I was a victim. I was frustrated every single time I tried and didn't understand what people were saying in a movie or on the news. And not only in English, I was such a perfectionist that one time when I was playing with a game and I tried, but I just couldn't for the life of me get past a certain level in that game. I got so frustrated thinking I was such a loser that I burst out crying. I even remember my sister storming into my room thinking what was wrong with me. Why was I crying over a computer game? And everything changed when I started looking at myself as a smart learner and understood that feeling frustrated, nervous, scared, or confused are all organic parts of learning. Because how could we expect our brain to learn anything new if it isn't challenged by something that it has never experienced? Many struggling English students don't realize this, but learning to speak English is an emotional game. And I talk more about how those who learn to manage their emotions better make super fast progress with their fluency. And that's why instead of feeling frustrated about not understanding everything, I don't think anyone has ever got to a level where they understand everything that they listen to. We can choose to get curious about the parts people are saying that we don't understand. And instead of feeling scared of making mistakes in a conversation, we can take courage and understand that it's through making mistakes and learning from the feedback we get on those mistakes mistakes, how we actually learn how to say something better. And instead of feeling disappointed about our lack of progress, just like when we are climbing up to the top of a mountain, we could just simply look back and enjoy the breathtaking view because of what we've achieved so far. And choose to be, and I know this might be a bit uncomfortable, especially if you're not used to it, extremely proud of the things you've already done, the actions you've taken, and the choices you've made towards your fluency. Cultivating helpful emotions, including courage, interest, curiosity, motivation, empathy, will always help you make much faster progress with your English than studying English in an extremely reactive way and giving up even before we actually see results just because we experience frustration, confusion, fear, or discomfort, which are all part of effective, smart learning. Another way I was learning English super fast was that I shifted away from focusing so much on understanding English and started focusing more on automatizing it. Because how many struggling English students spend hours and hours memorizing vocabulary, studying grammar rules, even reading, learning more about strategies, tips, even watching movies or listening to something in English, but they can't communicate effectively. Focusing on automaticity is the number one thing that will get you to fluency the fastest way possible. Because for many of us, fluency means being able to automatically express our thoughts without much thinking going into it and conveying the message that we want to convey without always thinking, having words automatically coming out of our mouth. But if we only focus on consuming videos, books, textbooks, lists of words, or tapping on apps with questionable usefulness, we are choosing to practice understanding the language and not to use it. And making these two shifts helped me make faster progress than I could ever have imagined. I used a lot of videos, interviews, podcasts, articles, books that I was learning vocabulary and grammar and pronunciation from, but I immediately decided what is useful for me to remember from those different materials and used it so I could remember it better. And to make fewer mistakes, sound more natural, and hesitate less when I was speaking, I paid attention to, learned, reviewed, and then used larger units than words. So I was focusing more on expressions, phrases, and sentences. Your brain is incredibly good at noticing patterns and then automatizing them for you, which is why looking at, listening to, and then using examples of the same grammar will eventually help you automatize the grammar so that you can start seeing new sentences that you've never even seen or heard before. My students have access to a bunch of different vocabulary, listening, or communication trainings, and from next month I'm even planning to provide them with a free internal podcast which they can eventually use to learn colloquial conversational sentences that they could use in their everyday life and in classes as well. What we always focus on is not individual words, but how those words interact with other words, so we could learn expressions, phrases, or sentences. You could easily learn the expression, "I'll make it up to you," which is a sentence we use when you kind of caused some trouble to one of your friends and you want to compensate for that. And instead of breaking it up and really analyzing like, why is this "I will" and why is this "make it up" and why is it "to," you just learned a whole phrase without really thinking, or a whole sentence starter, which is going to give you a load more confidence. Things like, "You won't believe what just happened to me," if you want to start telling a story. And learning all these phrases and expressions and sentences isn't much harder than learning individual words. But if we look at the consequences of what happens when we only focus on translating and learning individual words, we'll always end up putting all those words and thinking about the grammar structures, how they relate to each other in our head. But when we learn phrases and expressions and sentences and then automatize them through what we call activating activities in my program. And in this video, I shared with you some of the most effective activities that help my students know what to say in a conversation. Of course, it takes time to get to a level that a lot of my students experience within the first 6 to 12 months of learning together with us in our community, which is to think in English. But by focusing on learning smart, systematically reviewing vocabulary in its real context, how it's used in sentences that we listen to or read, and then intentionally using those expressions that you find useful to remember whenever you speak, have conversations, or write a paragraph, a letter, an email, or anything else, will help you automatize these expressions over time, no matter how long they are. And the juice, I left the most important thing that I did towards the end to honor your attention. I don't take this lightly, which really helped me improve my fluency, and that was showing up. You can't learn to drive a car, especially how to drive a car in the most difficult traffic situations, which is a complex skill that most people who need to drive will eventually learn how to do without actually sitting in the car and driving. I don't know if you learned how to drive a car, but when we first start, there is a bunch of things we want to focus on. And it takes time and a lot of effort to get better at paying attention to all of those things until, with practice and consistency, and learn to drive almost automatically. Struggling English students forget that our brain is learning through experience, not through information. Because with all the millions of YouTube videos, thousands of podcasts available, millions of books on the market, we'd all be geniuses and we'd be able to speak English at a proficient level. Those struggling English students don't often want to take action unless they could do it 150% well, without making mistakes, communicating their thoughts without hesitation or any sort of friction or thinking. Again, these people just want to look smart in front of other people, but they don't think about the process of consistently taking action to build their skills up. Not realizing that for our brain, actions are neutral and it will only help you build the connections in our brain for a skill like speaking English fluently if you take those actions. No matter how frustrating, difficult, uncomfortable it feels, no matter how scared you are, you can either choose to take the action, in which way you are choosing to get slightly better and better and better every single time you try, or you could choose not to take action, in which case you choose to stay where you are. Your brain doesn't care about doing something perfectly. Perfect in general is just something we humans came up with. Look at perfect trees. Can you find any? Or a perfect bird or a perfect butterfly? And your version of perfect is your version of perfect. My version of perfect is completely different from that, and it's different for every single person. Perfection is an illusion. It's subjective to our own ways of measuring our own abilities. To make it easier for me to make progress with my fluency instead of feeling overwhelmed with everything I needed to focus on when I was building my fluency, I chunked it up into small 30-minute actionable and achievable activities. Everybody can make time and dedicate 30 minutes to learning English every day. And when you do that one thing that you set out to do at the beginning of the day, you have that sense of success that will eventually fuel your motivation. And to help you understand what I mean by all of this, really focusing on doing one small thing, not looking at whether you're getting results or not, just putting in the effort so you can learn through experience how to automatize more vocabulary, so you could remember more vocabulary, how to understand fast English speakers from listening to real English interviews, podcasts, and then how to improve your speaking by automatizing the expressions, grammar, or anything else you're learning. I put together a speaking course called Elevate that now you can check out for 30 days, all for free. It basically gives you one activity to focus on every single day that will help you either speak better, teaches you vocabulary, expressions, sentences from real context, helps you understand fast English speakers, and gives you a couple of tips and tools that really help me build my fluency without always worrying, and make faster progress by focusing on learning English the smart way. And on top of that, there's also rest days included, so you could use it to either basically just get away from English for a day or two, meditate, reflect on your achievements, so you can find the motivation to keep going. All you need to do is head down to the description below, click the first link so you can check if the course is live at the moment of you watching this video. This course is a seasonal offer. I can't offer this all throughout the year because of the limited capacity I have in my business. So if you see that the course is live, make sure you sign up right now. Jump into improving your speaking, communication skills, your listening, and your vocabulary, everything about your fluency. Which of these 4 things that I mentioned today do you think you should double down on more so you could learn English the smart way? Let me know your thoughts, your reflections in the comments below. I'd love to hear different ways I could either expand on some of the points or simply clear your doubts about how speaking English fluently is easier than you think. Thank you so much for your time, your attention. I truly appreciate you getting to this point of the video. Don't forget to keep going.